Automakers are busy adding SUVs and crossovers to their lineups. Land Rover doesn't need to worry about that. In fact, the brand kind of needs something urbane like the second generation Evoque to round out its rugged SUV offerings. It looks like a city slicker, but it can tackle a trail. The sleek, angular style and compact size of the new one is a fashion-forward suit, perfectly tailored for city skirmishes. In white, it's what Star Wars stormtroopers would drive to impress.
The good news, the second generation Evoque is not just a refresh. It rides on an all-new architecture that's significantly more rigid. The bad news comes if you want the two-door or convertible. Those aren't made anymore.
This simplified lineup helps JLR keep complexities and costs down. It doesn't skimp on tech. This clear sight mirror is similar to what Cadillac has used for years. In video screen mode, it shows everything behind. The camera's mounted on the roof. This is the first Land Rover vehicle to get smart settings technology. Identifying the key fob, artificial intelligence algorithms learn the driver's habits over time. It sets up driving position, preferred temperature settings, media preferences, and commonly dialed phone numbers depending on the time or even the day of the week. Evoque is capable of over-the-air updates too. There are two ways to motivate an Evoque, either the P250 or this R-Dynamic model's P300 powertrain. Both use a 2-liter inline turbocharged 4-cylinder, but the 300 adds an electric motor. The 48-volt mild hybrid system gives it an additional 50 horsepower and 26 pound-feet of torque. In total, that's 296 horses and 295 pound-feet in a package that weighs 4,075 pounds. All Evoques change gears with a ZF 9-speed transmission. I'm not crazy about joystick controllers, but I'm losing that battle. There's no manual transmission. Do it here if you need full control. It's the first time Terrain Response 2 has been in Evoque. To cross mud and ruts or sand, just select the icon and be reasonable. This is not a Jeep Wrangler. Add the adaptive and configurable dynamics packages that run about $1,000 together, and transmission, throttle, suspension, and steering can be changed up to a driver's liking. It cannot be raised or lowered. Evoque does not get an air suspension.
According to Land Rover, the P250 powertrain does the 0 to 60 dash in 7 seconds flat. The P300 here, 6.3. Both come standard with all-wheel drive, and this being the Pacific Northwest, of course, it started to rain, so we can check the bite of the system. As expected, traction is quite good. One thing you will notice about the Evoque is that the suspension is set on the firm side, and with low-profile tires, this isn't exactly a cushy ride.
Yes, I checked to make sure the adjustable dampers weren't always in sport mode. It's moderately quiet on the highway. This being the sporty-looking Land Rover, you might expect a bit of engine growl. Not really. It sounds fairly tame.
If you're buying the P300 for fuel economy, no, it gets the same EPA average of 23 miles per gallon as the P250, but this one is quicker.
For better fuel economy, the rear axle can seamlessly disconnect when cruising. When braking at speeds under 11 miles per hour, the P300's powertrain is designed to shut the engine off.
One thing about the mild hybrid system, every so often when you go to stop, but then you decide, no, I'm going to keep going, there's a little bit of uncertainty from the powertrain. It doesn't know if it wants to turn on or off. It only happens occasionally.
Turn off the auto start stop for smoother dynamics. If Evoque is on your short list, I suggest long test drives in both the P250 and P300 so you understand the characteristics of both.
This is a Land Rover and it will go off-road. I'm not doing that today. Now because of that, it has what feels like a slightly slower steering ratio, so it doesn't feel as snappy in the corners as, say, a Porsche Macan. Now, the body movements are very nicely controlled. That's not an issue. It just feels like the steering ratio is a little bit on the slower side.
Ground clearance is 8.3 inches on all Evoques. It can drive through nearly 2 feet of water and scamper up hills with 45 degrees of slope. That and torque can be sent to the front and rear axles with the most grip. So, chances are you'll make it to the mall. People still do that, you know. The upscale ones are thriving these days.
Here's a neat trick. There's a number of cameras that get stitched together to create this image here. It's called Clear Sight Ground View. At low speeds, it's like the front of the car disappears. You can even see the angle of the wheels. Very helpful when off-roading.
Or if you're in a parking lot with really nasty potholes.
Even with the high belt line, visibility in the Evoque is pretty good. These are a little on the thick side, but it's okay. Rearward, that window is really small in back. You will be using that trick mirror on a regular basis.
And if you're going to tow, Evoque can tug nearly 2 tons. Some buyers spend the big bucks for Range Rovers just to get the sumptuous cockpit. Evoque's improved cabin will now get you most of the way there for half the price of Big Brother. Trim it out with leather or environmentally responsible fabrics that use recycled water bottles, wool blends, even eucalyptus fibers. Looking for cubbies to stash things away? Evoque has all kinds of them crammed into the cabin. You will not want for those. I'm thinking this will end up in the glove box or garage. Eliminating the cup holders, it doesn't fit very easily in here. There are all sorts of niceties if you want to pay for them. The heated wheel is $250. Sirius XM and HD radio is a $500 option. Ambient lighting goes for $225, and the upgrade to Meridian surround sound is $450. I would do that. Seats with massage function are also on the option list. Bringing us to the In Control Touch Pro Duo system. It's taken its lumps for slow response and the occasional snafu. In my week with the latest version, there were no issues, and I like the graphic look of the interface. And yes, both Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are along for the ride. The lower screen is, well, truth in advertising. Lower. The positioning takes a driver's eyes off the road, and being touchscreen, you can't use the braille method of feeling around for buttons. That's now my biggest gripe with In Control. But I like the dual function knobs. With the optional camera package, individual cameras can be called up to see what's happening all around the car. Helpful in the wilderness and parking lots.
So I understand there's nearly an extra inch of knee room in the second generation Evoque? Yep, it's fine now. So is headroom. I'm 5'9". I have plenty of that. Wish there was more footroom though. And if you plan on bringing car seats in and out of here, this is a little bit narrow.
Feel free to roast your rump back here. Nice sized door pockets too. Established social media mavens can grow their empire back here with loads of power ports and a Wi-Fi hotspot that handles up to 8 devices. The fixed glass roof is best appreciated in back, and thigh support is solid. This is not a large SUV, so 2 adults should be okay if they're not too tall and wear Jimmy Choos, not hiking boots. If a third whines and complains, well, tell them they can always take Uber or Lyft. Evoque's kicked open tailgate sensor is not located under the middle of the bumper. It's behind the driver's side back wheel, which seems odd at first, but in reality works really well since you don't have to jump back once it starts opening. Theoretically, owners will off-road their Evoques, so an actual physical spare tire is a must. Repair kits aren't always effective out on the trail, and good luck with roadside assistance in the woods. Put this in the simple but awesome category. It's a bit of a reach to drop the seats. It would be easier to walk around and open the back door to do it. Skiers and snowboarders won't need to add roof rails to stash gear, and it's good for the occasional 2x4 run too. As for everyday use, with 4 passengers aboard, this small Land Rover is about average in class, taking on 5 packs of the 2-ply, and no need to use this to close up. The foot action will close the lid as well, and it proves that I've not overstuffed the boot. The competition? That would be the likes of Audi Q3, BMW X1, Cadillac XT4, Lexus NX, Lincoln Corsair, Mercedes GLA, Porsche Macan, and Volvo XC40, so there are a lot of premium crossovers to cross-shop. The Land Rover is not inexpensive. A base P250 model retails for $43,645 with shipping. This particular tester goes for around 61 grand, pretty much loaded. The second generation Evoque looks pretty much like the first one, and that's not a bad thing. A spotter's guide, the new LED headlamps give it a Clint Eastwood squint. Evoque is much improved and gets a distinct family look, one that's as much at home in the city as it is on the trail. In case you're wondering about reliability, the Land Rover warranty is 4 years or 50,000 miles, and of course there's that whichever comes first clause. J.D. Power rates the dependability of the previous generation Evoque at around average, which might surprise some. And if you wonder why I don't make a big thing about reliability in my pieces, it's because I often don't have the data. I deal with facts, not perception or anecdotal experiences. Reliability is a very difficult thing to nail down, even for big operations like Consumer Reports and J.D. Power, let alone a one-man operation. And so many factors, such as how the car is maintained, play a huge role. I could go down the rabbit hole with this topic.
And finally, I do like to go for clean audio, but somebody just started playing basketball over there. But I can't wait around. I really need to get back to work and do more videos. So before I go, please click subscribe and then notifications. Obviously, you can tell I put some work into these, and I would like people to see them. That's Driven. I'm Tom Voelk.